Hey, everybody, welcome to the Significant Coaching Podcast. I'm Matt Rogers, and I'm thankful that you're back. I've got another great guest for you today. I've got Dr. Ryan Dyer, a guy that played for me at Maryville University a while back. I told you I was going to be kind of self-indulgent for a couple episodes. So Ryan is the second in a row of my former players that's really excelling in the coaching and administrative world, and just a tremendous educator. Just to tell you a little bit about Ryan, he took over that basketball program at North Paulding. They had never been to the state tournament ever in the history. No team had ever gone to the state tournament. And Ryan got them there within a couple of years. He built that program to consistent success. And like every good administration does, they see a coach that's doing everything right and they go, hey, we need an athletic director. We need an assistant principal. Would you like to do that? And it just allowed Ryan to help more kids and have a bigger impact. And he's done a fantastic job. He's selfless. He's an indulgent, constant learner. He loves to read. This guy reads books upon books upon books on leadership. He's the epitome of generosity. He's a great father, husband, son. He's a great coach. He's a great brother. I love his brother Kip, and another great coach out there that we're going to have on at some point. And Ryan got his doctorate a few years ago, and he works so hard at wanting to be the best in his business and really being the guy that can handle any job at a high school or a college. And he did it. Just amazed by his work ethic. He is the best of the best when it comes to role models. Ryan does this great podcast. You'll hear us talk about it early on in the episode. It's called Worth It. He does it with another friend of his who's another great AD down in Georgia. And they have unbelievable guests, really tremendous guests. Besides me, I was probably the weakest of all their guests. They were kind enough to talk to me, but they have great Division I coaches on. I learned a ton from the questions they asked. So I want you to check that out. The Worth It podcast, really, really worth your time. But the thing and this goes back to Ryan's character, they don't just do the podcast to talk. They really are focused on leadership and helping families get better, helping student athletes get better, helping coaches get better. And they also give back. Ryan's family has had some medical issues over the last few years with one of his children. And every time they do an episode, they take donations and they give back to the University of Virginia Children's Hospital. Ryan and his wife, Candy, had such a great experience with the doctors and nurses there and how they were treated that they now fundraise for the hospital. So if you've got $5, you got $10, $20, and you want to do something really good with a little extra money that you might have, go to the Worth It podcast website and donate to the University of Virginia Children's Hospital. And what they do is they provide hearing aids, free hearing aids for kids and families that can't afford them. And it's just a great tradition that they've started, and they've raised over $12,000. And I want to get that number way up. So if you got a few extra bucks laying around, aren't afraid to give during the holiday year, go check out the Worth It podcast and donate. But I know you're going to love Ryan Dyer as much as I do. I hope you enjoy the episode. We had a lot of fun talking, and I think you'll learn a lot as well. Here he is, Ryan Dyer. Dr. Dyer, how are you?
Oh, awesome, Coach. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. So good to see you and so good to talk to you. I'm so impressed with everything you've done over the last 15, 20 years. But I really want to talk about before we get too deep into the conversation, you do such a great job with your social media promoting not only your kids and your teams, but you just do a really great job of promoting your staff and really articulating how great of a job they do for your community. Where did that come from? And do you enjoy it? Does it work for you to do that, or do you get joy from that?
Well, I think it's different because when you tell somebody what a great job they're doing in person, you automatically get that self-gratification, like wow, that you can see their facial expressions and all those things. So I do enjoy. I think I got so much of it from you, honestly. The way you used to, playing for you back in the day and how you treated us. But the world's just changed now, and that's where it's evolved. And so, yes, definitely enjoy that. And I just think that's honestly, do I really enjoy social media and scrolling? Not so much, but I do enjoy celebrating people on there, and I really appreciate you saying that.
Well, it's so fun for me to watch because I know how sincere and authentic it is. And I hope your kids and your staff understand that. I mean, it's coming from a truly genuine place with you, and you do appreciate them. And I think that's a great reminder for all of us that are in teaching leadership, how important it is to give that pat in the back when somebody does something good.
No doubt. I think with so many times we get caught up. I know I'm really bad at this. Is my intentions are good, but maybe I don't follow through on the thing that I set out, or I think something about somebody, and I don't tell them, or I don't show gratitude, or I don't do those things. And I think uh, trying to get more and more in a habit of just, today we showed up with our athletics clerk and assistant athletic director just gave somebody a $20 gift card in their classroom. Just little things that pop in our head all the time, but I think the key is acting on them.
That's so great. And it's so powerful. It's so empowering for your staff to know that you've got their back, because a lot of times we're just going to work. We're just trying to be good people. And we all are so busy in education that sometimes we forget to stop and go, man, we're getting a lot of good done. We need to appreciate it. We need to take back and celebrate that. So I really love it. It's taught me a lot. I'm trying to pick up on the things that you're doing, and I think it's great.
No, I read something today. It's funny you said that, Coach. I did not enjoy reading until I met you, and I've probably read, I don't, gosh, 300, 400 books at least. I don't know. But long story short, I read something today about make sure you put time in your calendar to celebrate the milestones and the if you're in a season and celebrate people. So I think that's huge. Our calendar tells us everything.
It does. It really does. I've been really working on my executive function skills, trying to be more organized, trying to enable my calendar to enable me to get my tasks done, and to be more consistent with those things. So I really love all that you're doing. Hey, you got this big picture. People can't see it because they're listening, but you've got this great picture over your wall right behind you with that 1%, your wolf pack. Talk to the audience about where that come from, that 1%. What does it mean to you? How do you try and teach it and articulate it to the people in your community?
Well, I think it all started when I was a player playing for you. I used to really think that, man, if I worked hard for a week and just busted it, which there's a lot of value to that, I could accomplish all my dreams and all my aspirations, and maybe I could slack for a long time. But as I've gotten older and figured a few things out, I've still a lot to learn. I've realized it's all about your habits and what you do every day. So those little things like we just kind of talked about, celebrating people, is that something that we do every day? So to me, it's two things. It's 1% is the little things matter. What coaches are picking up trash, what coaches are taking time to sit down with a kid and be an energy giver. Just being above, just saying, hey, I'll do extra. And then it's the 1%, let's get better every day mindset. Like, let's go to work every day and let's just don't show up and clock in, clock out. Champions do more, and let's get better. Maybe it's, I always have a weekly goal. Like, what am I doing this week to try to get better for myself? So it's just getting better every single day, stacking those keystone habits on and on.
Are you finding that the message is turning into change? Are you finding that your kids and your staff and your people are really buying into it, and they're seeing the results of that?
Yeah, I think so. I think because I've been doing this job for 5 years as athletic director and assistant principal. Well, before that, I was a head basketball coach here for 8, so I knew the culture really well, loved it. I think just like when you hire somebody, it's all about what do you need at that time. Well, at that time we had a good thing going. I wanted to turn good to great, and I just felt like that was the way to get there. And of course, we're not perfect, we're not there yet, but we got 3,000 kids and gosh, 71 coaches, so we're a little bit closer every day to getting where we want to be.
That's great. Let's talk about your coaching career, because I'm so proud of you what you did with your coaching. And I know you and I talked when you decided to step away and be the athletic director and get administration, how hard that was for you, but you felt like it was the right thing for time with your kids, time with your wife, your health. Tell me about what coaching meant to you. And I know you're still coaching your kids. Talk about transitioning from coaching to being an athletic director, and kind of those shared skills.
Gosh, I heard somebody say this one time and it made a lot of sense. Take whatever job you have now and make it your dream job. Make it into to something that you want to be at a long time. I remember when we first came here, and I say we because it wasn't me. It was Candy. It was kids. Ava was one. Bryce wasn't born yet, but he was coming soon. It was my coaching staff with my brother and our head coach basketball now. He played for me at another school, but we didn't have basketballs. Everybody's got their war stories where you don't have a ball rack, you don't have this, that.
Right.
We didn't have any of that stuff.
Yeah.
It was bad. There was a reason I got the job, at 26. There was a reason, with 1,500 kids enrolled in our school, and but it just it took time, and it was painful 4 or 5 years getting it going, and then it all started. We got our youth league going. We had about 700 kids in a youth league. We had about 40 to 50 in middle school league. So we just wanted to breed the love of basketball and just put it. When we first came here, nobody was playing on the basketball courts in the neighborhoods. Nobody. And it's exciting now to drive by and see those courts filled up. Not because of anything I did, but the team of people that we had, and it was just real special. So fast forward, we won a lot of games, we had a lot of success, but our kids were really special. And if I look back now and at all the kids that have been through here and families and my family, it was a blessing. But I've shared many of my struggles with you that I had during that time, and not ashamed to say, because I think we got to make our message. I passed out in the locker room after a loss. Went through some really hard times where I couldn't sleep, anxiety driven. I want to win, and I want to win at a high level, and I still do, and it still irks me. That's still a battle for me. So I loved it and still do. Don't know what I would do if I wasn't coaching my kids, for sure.
Yeah. Well, you're so good at it. I think you were born to coach. You were born to, and not just on the basketball court. I think you were born to be a coach and a leader and a teacher and a mentor. And you bring a joy and an energy and a light to everything you do. And you're a role model to me because of that. And I know all about the sleepless nights. We lost an ugly one last night, man, and I have a cloud in my brain right now trying to figure out how do I get their confidence back up, and how do I get them believing in themselves again, and see this as a bump in the road. And so how is it for your coaches to know that they've got somebody like you that's been there and done that, been through all that?
I think it's good because most people we did make some changes. We got a lot of new coaches for sure when I kind of transitioned here over the years, but the good nucleus is still here from there, and so they knew me then. They knew they saw my strengths and weaknesses, and I think it's important too. Like I'm not, maybe I haven't figured out leadership for sure, no, but I'm not going to be a fake person. I'm just me. I'm Ryan Dyer, and I got strengths, I got weaknesses, and just because my name says assistant principal and athletic director, that just tells you where my office is. That's not really coordinates of who I am as far as my leadership philosophy. So I think it's really important for them to know. Like I always tell them, when things are good, we're gonna be on the mountaintop together, and we're going to enjoy the view and we're going to have a good time and it's going to be. But man, when that branch breaks, as long as you're doing things right and ethically, and well, we're all gonna fall on that branch together.
That's great. That's great. Such a great message. And you said my name is Ryan Dyer, but let's be clear. Your name is Dr. Ryan Dyer.
Yeah.
And I, and it's one of my great prides. And anybody that asks me about my former players, you're always the first one that comes to my head that, you took your education very seriously and got your master's and then went and got your doctorate. Talk about the challenge of that and where you had to go mentally to while you were coaching and you were administrator and you said, I'm going to get this done. It's important to me. Where did that come from and what drove you through that?
Well, I'll take you back to when I was in school, at Maryville in St. Louis with you. I know you wouldn't mention this, but I will. You pushed me to, like I said, I didn't enjoy reading. I remember you proofread one of my papers and butchered it, and I was mad at you. And and then also too, though, you encouraged me to get help where I need to get help. There was some learning stuff that I needed to figure out on my own, and I was very stubborn and didn't want to get help and didn't want to do those things. I always tease my kids because they get pulled out of school, out of the classrooms to go. They call it venture here, where the smart kids. My two kids were blessed and they take after their mom. They're smart. I was getting pulled out at a young age for a different reason. For some, we call it chapter one. The kids that couldn't read, fourth and fifth grade, and I laugh about it now. But I really wanted my kids to see that, man, Dad is maybe not the smartest dude, but he reads like crazy. He listens to podcast books. Man, he got his doctorate, and he's not very bright. What can I do? And I wanted them to see those late nights and those early mornings, and I wanted them to see all that. Now, of course, financially and career wise, it was a good move, but that was more to me a message to my kids to say, not look what I can do, but look what you can do with. One of my favorite two words are blue collar. Just nothing real sexy. Just get up and work.
Yeah. Yeah. The book that I wrote was the same thing for me. It was something I didn't think I was capable of. And the fact that I sat down and wrote that many words and most of them make sense. And, it was purposeful. It was really something I wanted my kids to see, that I could start something and finish it. So, and I know if I sat down with Ava and Bryce right now, they'd both tell me that you're the smartest guy they know. So get that out of your head. So
Man, I don't know. I
they
don't know
love
about the
you
eighth
to death.
grader. She may tell you something.
Well, tell me from a coach's perspective, what are you seeing? What are some of the good things you're seeing? You're on the sidelines all the time, all your sports, football, baseball, basketball, all of it. Tell me what you're seeing that you really love now that you're doing in more of an observer role, watching coaches. Now that you've been able to step away and get off the floor a little bit, what are you seeing that you really like? What are you seeing coaches do? Not just your coaches, but in both sides.
Oh, I love that you asked that question. You got some good questions. I think I'll take you back to our head football coaching interview for anybody who's listening. You always told me this, and it's true. You never know who's watching you, and you can't fake it. Like you just can't. You're gonna fail if you try to fake it. But we interviewed a lot of different people, and I'll brag on our head football coach now. The people we interviewed didn't know this at the time, but my wife and two kids were a part of the interview process. This was 4 years ago. And the last part of the interview process was they take them down to the field house. My wife drops her keys or whatever it was. I don't even remember at the time. And let's see if the person picks the keys up and hands them back and is able to have good contact. Well, nobody picked them up except the dude we hired. And nobody looked my kids in the eye but the dude we hired. So I say all that to say, I don't really think a ton has changed as far as intangibles go. It's still the little things like looking people in the eye, being an energy giver, not somebody who takes energy from the room, being able to open the door for a woman, all the things that old school principles. I think we're getting lost a little bit in all the new fancy, which I'm all into. I'm a dork. I love technology. I'm all into all this stuff, but I think it's still everything rises and falls on leadership, hard work, little things. And I'm starting to see more people get back to that, get back to, you know, this is what works for us.
Yeah.
This is the baseline. So that's a really boring answer, but that's what I believe in my heart.
I don't think there's anything boring about it. I think it's innovative. I think it's really thinking about the authenticity of the people that you want to be around and you want coaching your kids. So I love that you did that. I love that that's a priority for you when you're hiring. Now, when you get that person on board, what are you seeing that you like? What are you seeing in how they plan their practices and they nurture leadership? Are you seeing things that get you excited and you want to share?
Yes, it's a one of my favorite thing to do is go to practices, and I really try to walk a tight line because I don't want to overstep, but at the same time, I want to see what's going on, and mostly because I just love it. Um, I think the core value that we hold as far as just to bring you on the court, for example, or on the field, is player development. And like for basketball, for example, if you can't put the ball in the hole, it's not going to matter. Can our kids moving? Are they active? I know there's an engagement piece and film and all that stuff that we got to have, but our kids moving. You can go into practice and tell in 15 minutes what the culture is, and our kids being active. And there's one thing you can't fake, and that's culture, and that's the living, breathing ethos of your entire program. And I think so many coaches are doing a good job of feeding that every day.
And one of the great things that you've done there at North Paulding is you've created this youth basketball program. You talked about it that nobody was playing basketball before, but let's put some numbers to it. You have over 600 kids now in your youth program, right, that are playing
Yeah.
sports.
Oh yeah, yes sir.
How did that start? How did you grow that? How did you implement it?
Well, first way is I thought we're never going to be successful. I knew it was going to take a while to be successful, and it did. But we started seeing gains in 3 years because we wanted those kids to really get back to, again, it goes to old school principles. We wanted kids to grow up wearing Wolfpack stuff. So we wanted them to have not just a Parks and Rec or whatever. Nothing wrong with that, but we wanted to brand it for us. And nobody in our district had this going on, and we just thought, hey, what a better way for a kid to grow up than wearing that stuff. And not only that, they're going to start learning our offense and defense in second grade. That sounds a little crazy, but how you do anything is how you do everything. Just simple stuff, and everything builds on each other. So we just got after it. It's kind of like being a salesman. We started really cheap and get people in and let them play on our court. And all of a sudden it blew. Year 3, we were at 400 kids, and it just it explodes. It's a full blown rec center now, as far as the leagues and all the stuff that they do, and it's really amazing because I can look back at both kids wearing those jerseys, and now my daughter almost be in high school now, playing hopefully at a high level, and same for Bryce. And it just took years, and it was a great. I always told people, win or lose, if having a bad day, I always would go to Publix. I just go to Publix and get a sandwich or something, and you would see people wearing North Paulding basketball and little kids coming up to you. Nothing better.
That's great. That's really great. That's a big thing on my to-do list this spring and summer is that we've got a good youth program, but I want to start really building it out where there's more teaching going on. And how many of your coaches are parents, and how many of them are non-parents?
So the majority are parents because there's so many teams. You're talking about 19 teams in just third and fourth grade. So the majority are. The cool thing is we do have a lot of former players that'll go back and coach, or anybody who will just step in, neighbors, but they're just community members. And now it's kind of weird. We have K through 12 youth league basketball, and then we have 5 through 8 middle school. So you can play both. I mean, not both. I'm sorry. You can try out for the middle school team, not make it. That's another thing, and then go play youth. So
that's great.
There's always, no matter what your skill level is, you can become a fan of basketball and show up at the games.
Now that you've been through all this as a college player and as a high school coach and now as an administrator, I want to pick your basketball coaching brain. If you had to take over a program tomorrow, what would be your foundational things that you would want to teach? What would be the things that you know you need to build to get that program growing quickly?
Well, the very first thing I think is is to get with the kids, the community, and start building those relationships. It kind of depends, if I was at a place that I wanted to be for a long time, I think that's exactly where I'd start. I want people to know who I am, and more importantly, know who my family is. My wife was always the face of North Baltimore basketball in my mind, because she wanted to be.
Yeah.
She don't care about that, but she just never missed games. She never missed anything. Um, and the same thing for now. She comes to everything, kids, and I think that's where you start in my mind. Community relationships, on the court. If I could go back in those early years, I was so driven to we're going to guard you, we're gonna hold you, we're going to make sure you don't score, we're going to be methodical. I wish, and I got better at this as time went, of just working on things to help them. I mean, just to relate to basketball, let's put the ball in the hole. We are not going to win if we can't score or we can't finish or we can't just think if they can be better players, we're going to win basketball games. And I think I wish I would have, I was such a complex coach and I love studying and learning. Sometimes I did too much.
Yeah.
And that's what I respect about you. You believe in the system and you're doing it. And you're going to be great at it. And it's very hard and complex, but I wish I would have had that approach.
Well, it took me a long time too. I'm on the other side where I'm teaching the system, but now I'm finding I got a bunch of guys that don't handle the ball very well. So anybody that pushes us back, we haven't put enough time in teaching them how to handle that stress and how to handle that panic. We're 11 practices in and we're already 2 games in, and there's only so much time you have and you have to prioritize. But part of me is going back going, gosh, we put so much time into our man-to-man, but now we're pressing so much and now teams are pressing us back and we didn't do a good enough job of really developing those ball handlers. Now, because of that, we're not getting the ball at the floor and getting into offense and secondary well enough to get good shots. So I'm right back to what you were talking about. So I'm going through the same thing right now, going, okay, how do I help these guys get the ball in the hole? Yep. We can't afford for 3 guys to do all the scoring. We're not going to win many games, So how do you do that, coach? How do you get your 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 guys figuring out, put them in a position where they can do the things that maybe they're not great at?
Yeah, that's a great question, man. I think I just think it goes back to you want to be great at something,
right?
You want to hang your hat on something. And for me, it was always toughness and attitude and belief and all those things. But on the court, I always just thought, what gives us the best chance to win? And with the people that we have, and man, we would pour into those kids and try to. Just like coaching to me, like role identification is so huge. Like, and it goes back to praise. Like you started out the podcast. How are we praising these kids who are 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and they're not scoring 25 a game? Are we giving them the same praise as this guy who's scoring 32? Probably naturally not. Just like we're not giving our custodians the same praise as our head football coach. Naturally, we're just not. But the special people, the uncommon people, have that built into them where they know that in order for this organization to reach its major goals and tap into the potential, everybody's got to understand how they're tied to the mission.
That's so great. And you do such a good job of that too. And I love that, our custodians, our lunch, the men and women that are in our lunchroom, our security guards. You do such a good job of making sure they know how important they are to the success, the health, the relationships, the personal growth of our kids. So you do such a good job of that. And do you find when you include them that they're a little surprised by it?
Yes. No doubt they are. And, I think it's that same balance of you've never met a bad dad who was worried about being a bad dad, like, or you've never met a bad husband. I don't think you could ask Candy; she can tell you different. But who's worried about being a bad husband? Every day when I walk in, my secretary would tell you, anybody. I have a big man. If you talk about calendars and all, that's my jam. But I'm task oriented. But at the very front, top of my paper, I write the word people down. And every day I leave this office or this wherever I am, I feel like I fail every day. And I just think that we got to continue to do more. We got to continue to do more, and nobody's going to remember what my record was, even though I will, and I loved it and I want it. But they will remember how I made them feel, or how we as an organization made them feel.
Yeah, yeah, it's so true. And at the end of the day, writing down that word people. What have I done? Have I made an impact? Does everybody feel appreciated? It's such a great mindset um, for everything, not just leadership role, just how we treat people at Target or at Publix or at the grocery store. It doesn't matter. So I love that you've continued to be that person. I want to transition a little bit to your podcast because I just love your podcast, and I had so much fun being on it. I talked to way too much, but your podcast is really great. And the podcast is called Worth It. And I want you to talk a little bit. I want to get into the details and all the great guests you've had, but let's talk about what you and your partners focus is and why you're doing it, because I think that's such a great message, and obviously it's close to your heart.
Yeah, no, I think the why behind it is two things. Is the why behind we want to help people. Really don't, you know how it is. You don't. I'm exhausted when I don't do anything. Like if I'm doing this with you, I get energy. If I can't just sit around the house and watch Netflix, I'm just not built for that. And I think it all started from Andy Stanley, who's a great leadership guru, says that you need to start with what breaks your heart and do something about it. It breaks my heart that kids don't have hearing aids and they can't hear, can't afford it. So we started this with just an open mind, open heart of, hey, this is my burden. It's close to my family. We want to make sure everybody has hearing aids, and that's how it started. And it started as, well, what are we halfway decent at? Well, I think we were okay with leadership. Let's get it going. And I think so many times I'm terrible at this. You can ask anybody. I want everything planned out perfectly before I'm going to start anything, including a workout, a diet. How many times have I asked you what you've been doing, to lose all that weight and look good? But we just need to start.
Yeah.
And I felt like it was on our heart to just get started. And so that's where the vision came from.
Good. It's great. It's such a good, I'm a big fan of the show. It only had 22 episodes, but there was a show called Newsroom. And one of the quotes in that show was, "We just decided to." And that's a message I'm constantly sharing with my guys. You're not filling up the scorebook. Okay. Well, what can you do? What do you know you can do well? And sometimes we just have to decide to do this. For me today, it was just, I got to the gym this morning early and I was like, I just got to open the door and get out of the door because I was exhausted. But I knew if I didn't get on that treadmill for an hour and I didn't stretch and work on my shoulder exercises, I'm going to be miserable in 3 days. It's just that mindset. You've got it. I got to take that next step. I got to open the door and walk through it.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Yep. I love it. Your podcast is so good. Let's talk about your podcast. Look at the guests you've had: Bruce Pearl, Brent Key, Josh Pastner, Mark Rick, Garrison Hurst. What an amazing cast of coaches and athletes. And it goes on and on. How are you getting these guests, and how's it been talking to them?
Gosh, you know what? I wish I could say, like, man, I'm so well connected. We got it going on, like it's just not like, it's just, you never know until you ask.
Yeah.
And that's what my my parents used to tell me that. And I asked a lot. And I just, same thing, like for you, I contacted you. I want to play college basketball.
Yeah.
And I asked. I say, look, you would take a chance on me. I'm gonna work. And you never know until you ask. And I just feel like, through what I believe spiritually and through all the things that our families walk through, that we've been honored to have those guys on. And I've really enjoyed having all of them, but I really feel like they they want to give back, and that's what is the separator for them. When they hear like, this is why we're doing this, most of them are like, yeah, we're in.
That's fantastic. Yeah, and the conversations are so good. You do such a good job. I walked away from our conversation. I was like, gosh, I need to go back and listen to it just to write down the questions and the flow of questions you asked. You just did such a good job. And, when you have big guests, I mean, these are major Division I coaches, you got NFL athletes, and to get what you're getting out of them and get them to be engaged, it's really fun. If anybody's not listening to it, go download Worth It, because it's great. It's really, really good.
Well, I appreciate that, Coach.
Yeah. Yeah. Coach, what's a piece of advice? And I know you've got a lot of nuggets, and I know you read so much. Is there a piece of advice that you've gotten over the years that you find more times than not that you're reciprocating to other people?
Yeah, I think that it's for me, there's time to get better. We are slammed in this world. It's all taken our world is absorbed. We're fast paced, but I think for me, the biggest separator for me is just being able to. I've always been a really hard worker. Like I've always got that from my parents. I'm going to work, but there's these little times that you can separate yourself. Like we're coming on Christmas right now, and that's my favorite holiday. But I'm looking at it as a chance. I know nobody's going to be working out 5 days a week like I am. That's kind of my motto. I know nobody's going to be reading like I'm going to read over this next couple of weeks. I'm going to spend time with my family, and I'm going to love it. But these are these little separator seasons where I'm going to make a difference, and I'm going to compete and get better. For example, this is one of my favorite. Anytime I do things around the house, which I need to do more, but I take a pride in trying to. Candy deserves a person who, no matter how busy they are, who's going to take pride in helping her. And so, if I'm unloading dishes, I got a book on Audible, or I got a podcast playing, or if I'm folding laundry, I'm either got a podcast book. Same thing for a shower, or if I'm folding my kids. If I fold my kids' laundry, I need to do this more. I pray for them as I'm folding their clothes. Like there's
It's
these
great.
little hidden things throughout our day that we can do to separate ourselves.
It's fantastic.
That's really it.
And if you don't know Dr. Ryan Dyer and you're hearing all this is who he's been his entire life. Genuine, golden heart. And if you meet his mom and dad, you'd know why, because they are very special people. And and I've told this story all the time because Ryan called me to recruit him, and I'll finish with this. And a couple days later, his mother called me, and I'm in St. Louis, and I have my own Midwestern accent, and this woman called and said, "Coach Rogers, this is Angie Dyer." I said, "Angie Dyer, Angie Dyer, who's Angie Dyer?" And I go, "Yes, ma'am." And she goes, "You talked to my son yesterday." And I go, "I did, ma'am." And she goes, "Yes, Ron Dyer. You don't remember talking to him?"
Yeah.
And I said, "Ma'am, I'm so sorry." Because I grew up and we had really close friends that were a couple towns away that my dad barbered with another guy. And we went camping with this family, and their son's name was Ron Durr. I was like, why would somebody be calling me about Ron Durr? And it took me about 5-10 minutes, and your poor mother, she kept going, "Well, Coach Rogers, Ron told me he talked to you yesterday."
Oh yeah.
And I go,
Yeah.
"All right, who did I talk to yesterday?" And then it hit me. She's saying Ryan Dyer,
Yeah. That's it. That's
And
it.
I was like, "Oh," I said, "Angie, I'm so sorry. I love your son. I just had a blast talking to him." And he
Yeah.
goes, "I got his film and he can shoot it." Oh,
Yeah.
can he shoot it?
Yeah.
And that was my introduction to your mother. So the fact that she let you come play for me after that was pretty
Yeah.
amazing. So
Yeah, that sounds like her calling my coaches. Yep, that sounds like it. Yeah, yeah. No, she's great. And what's funny is we make fun of you, man. We go through. I shouldn't tell people this, but I will. You can edit it out. We'll go through Taco Bell every once in a while. I won't partake in eating that stuff, but my kids will, and we'll I'll say, can I please do my northern accent like Coach Rogers? And they're like, oh, let's get them, let's go, and it's pretty freaking good. I'm not gonna lie to you, but yeah, we you get it back. Don't worry.
Oh, I hope so. I
Yeah,
hope
yeah,
so.
yeah, yeah.
I love
20
I
years
love
later,
your I love
yeah.
the accent. People,
No,
it's
it
funny.
is.
People make fun of me. That's why I have
Oh
to tell
yeah.
my kids. I go, we have an accent too. You just don't
Oh
hear
yeah.
it.
You're exactly right. Yeah, yeah. Hey, I'm telling you, it used to be really strong. It's still not great, but yeah, it is. I will
It's
never forget going to school there and people looking at me like, "What? Who is this dude?" Yeah, that was the greatest thing ever,
And they
ever.
all fell in love with you too. Everybody loved
Oh,
you.
yeah,
Everybody
it
loved your
was a blast.
sweetheart.
It was a blast.
Well, give Candy and Ava and Bryce a big hug for me. Give your mom and dad a hug for me. Give Kip and his family a hug for me. I miss all of you. I'm so proud of you. I love you to death. I mean, anybody that's down there in Georgia and has got an opportunity to come witness your program and witness your leadership and witness your love of people and all that you do, it's really impressive, my friend. I'm so proud of you.
Well, I appreciate it. Got a long way to go, but I'll tell you what, I don't know where I'd be. I tell the people this all the time, without you. And it just takes one person. I just leave anybody who's listening. If it takes one person, it's worth saying it. It just takes one person to believe in somebody else. It really does.
Well,
And you
I've
never
always
know.
believed in you, and I always will. And I'm glad you're taking all of my weaknesses and turning them into strengths. So I appreciate
Uh,
that.
oh, well, Coach, you're the best, and I sure love you.
All right, brother. Have a good one. And if I don't talk to you here in the next couple of weeks, have a Merry Christmas and a Happy Holiday. But I'm sure we'll talk before then.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Good luck with the rest of your seasons. Okay.
Yes, sir. Thanks, Coach.
Bye, buddy.
See ya.
What a great young man, and what a great role model for anybody that wants to reach their full potential. I talk a lot about the Bradley Cooper movie. I think it's called Limitless. He takes a drug and it unlocks his brain, and he can do anything he wants. He's able to remember everything. He's able to be his best version of himself. And I really think about Ryan Dyer when I think about that movie, when I think about what an individual can do for themselves if they just decide to. This was a young man that always had a big heart, always cared about everyone, huge family man, great parents, great brother, just a great family. Um, he's the epitome of how you recruit. I didn't always make the right decisions when I recruited, but I made the right decision with him because I recruited his whole family. And boy, was it worth it. And no pun intended, because that's the name of his podcast, Worth It. And you should check it out because he's got great guests, as you heard me talk about. But love Ryan. I'm so proud of him, and I hope you enjoyed it. Hopefully, his character and his love for life and his love for people oozed out of him, and you heard all that because it's real, it's authentic, and he's just a tremendous person. And I look up to him. He kept saying that I was a role model for him, but let me tell you, he's a role model for me, and I love him to death. So I hope you enjoyed Ryan Dyer. I know I did. Keep an eye on North Paulding High School. He's running an amazing athletic program there, and it really should be a vision for all high school athletic directors. It is how every athletic department should be run: how you treat your people, how you treat your kids, how you promote them, how you celebrate them. And he does it right. So thank you, Dr. Dyer, for giving me your time, and we'll be cheering for you. Thanks, everybody, for listening in. Got great guests coming up the road here next Friday. I know I talked earlier in the first couple episodes that I was going to do it twice a week. My schedule just isn't going to allow me. So we're going to record and get you a new podcast every Friday. So you'll have the Be Significant podcast with my lovely co-host, Beth Cook, on Mondays. And you're going to have the Significant Coaching with me and another great coach every Friday. And do check out my blog. I write a new blog every Wednesday. So you're going to get sick of me eventually, but I hope not. I'm going to try and just put really good content out there so you can keep getting better as a coach, as a parent, as a student athlete. So Mondays is going to be Significant Podcast. Wednesday is going to be the blog of significance. So you can see some of my writing and hear the thoughts that I'm dealing with as a coach and as a parent. And then Friday, I'm going to bring you a great coach to talk about coaching and leadership and mentoring and recruiting and all those great things. So hope you enjoyed, Ryan. Have a great week. I'll look forward to talking to you next time.